Welcome to the UTG at Work podcast. I'm Deacon Mike Houghton. I am the executive director of an apostolate called UTG at Work. Our mission is to help women and men joyfully live their faith and witness to Christ in the gospel in the workplace. I'm happy to be with you as we explore the Sunday gospel in ways that help people who work. You can find this podcast as well as helpful articles, videos, and other materials on our website, which is utgatwork.org. You can also subscribe to this podcast through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other podcasting sites, as well as on our UTG at Work YouTube channel. This weekend we celebrate the Epiphany, and our gospel is a reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Glory to you, O Lord. When Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of King Herod, behold, magi from the east arrived in Jerusalem, saying, "Where is the newborn King of the Jews? We saw his star at its rising, and have come to do him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was greatly troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. Assembling all the chief priests and the scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Christ was to be born. They said to him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it has been written through the prophet, And you, Bethlehem, land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, since from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod called the magi secretly, and ascertained from them the time of the star's appearance. He sent them to Bethlehem, and said, "Go and search diligently for the child. When you have found him, bring me word that I too may go and do him homage." After their audience with the king, they set out, and behold, the star that they had seen at its rising preceded them until it came and stopped over the place where the child was. They were overjoyed at seeing the star, and on entering the house they saw the child with Mary his mother. They prostrated themselves and did him homage. Then they opened their treasures and offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they departed for their country by another way. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. This weekend we celebrate the Feast of the Epiphany, and today's Gospel tells us the familiar story of the wise men who came to pay homage to the newborn King. It's a beautiful story, one we can easily picture. Jesus is revealed not only to Israel, but to the whole world through the Gentiles, the magi. These magi, Gentiles from afar, were drawn by a star to worship the Messiah. From this moment come some of our Christmas carols, nativity scenes, and those little figurines of three men riding camels that show up in homes all over the world. It's a scene that many of us can see clearly in our minds as the gospel is proclaimed. But the reality was likely far less peaceful than we might imagine. Mary and Joseph were faithful practicing Jews. From childhood, they would have been taught to keep their distance from Gentiles, people like the Magi. Gentiles were considered unclean. They weren't the kind of people you welcomed into your home, especially when you had a newborn child. So, imagine the scene. The Magi had been traveling for days, maybe weeks, following the star. They arrived, tired, dusty, probably stinky. There's a knock at the door, at least metaphorically, and Joseph opens it just a crack. And what does he see? A group of foreign Gentiles standing there, saying they had come to see his son. How do you think Joseph felt in that moment? I imagine that his instinct was to protect his family and to turn them away, but he didn't. He let them kneel before his child. He let them offer their gifts, and that couldn't have been easy. That tension between Jews and Gentiles didn't end with the gospel. It still exists today. Let me share a personal experience. When my wife and I were in the Holy Land, our tour guide took us to the Western Wall, the base of the ancient temple. It's one of the holiest places in Judaism, and many deeply faithful Jews go there to pray. As I approached the wall to place a written prayer into one of the cracks, which is a common practice, I noticed an Orthodox Jewish man nearby. As soon as he realized that I was a Gentile, he quickly moved further away. He didn't want to risk getting too close to me. In his religious understanding, I was unclean. So, what's the message for us on this Feast of the Epiphany? The word Epiphany means an aha moment, a sudden realization of something that had been hidden. Traditionally, this feast celebrates the revelation of the Messiah to the whole world through the Magi, not just to Israel. But I also wonder if Mary and Joseph had their own epiphany that day, when Gentiles came knocking to honor their Jewish son. Now, some will say that this kind of thing is no longer an issue today. We've moved past it. We no longer discriminate against or hate others just for who they are. But have we really moved past it? I think many of us are still in need of an epiphany. Is racism still present in our country? Of course it is. To deny it would be naive. I see it played out in workplaces all over our great country. Yes, there are laws and company policies which are supposed to prevent it, but it's real. I've seen it firsthand where I've worked, and I've even seen it in my own extended family. What we need isn't just another lawsuit or policy, but an epiphany of the heart, a true recognition of the equal dignity of every person. Is there a divide between rich and poor? Absolutely. Not just in wealth, but in how we value human lives. We often place far more importance on the lives of celebrities and the wealthy than on our poor brothers and sisters who remain invisible. We need an epiphany that reminds us of the value of every human being, regardless of their net worth. And perhaps the clearest example is in politics. Where Mary and Joseph opened the door to the Magi, many of us today are tempted to slam the door on anyone who thinks differently than we do, especially those from other countries. We're deeply divided by political ideologies, particularly around immigration. What we need is an epiphany of love that rises above political labels. Not foolishness. Even the church speaks out against unchecked migration. But we need policies and practices which value good people and have sympathy for their plight. As we begin a new year filled with resolutions and fresh starts, may this Feast of the Epiphany call us back to Christ. The God who came to us does not judge the way we often judge. Today's Gentiles are not only those of different faiths, but those who look differently, think differently, live differently, and vote differently than we do. When they come knocking at our door, may we have the courage and the love of Joseph, welcoming them not as outsiders, but as equals, and as fellow children of God. Thanks for joining me for this week's UTG at Work podcast. I look forward to meeting again next week. In the meantime, I encourage you to boldly live your faith in the workplace in the week ahead. I'll pray for your success, and I ask that you pray for the success of this UTG at Work apostolate. If you want to learn more about us, please visit utgatwork.org. Now go in peace, glorifying the Lord by your life.